Ron Darling joins us here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ron?
Hi, Rich. Nice to hear from you, my friend.
Oh, thank you for calling in. Our poll question today is, who do you consider the all-time hit king, Ichiro or Pete Rose? Ron, you wanted to weigh in on this?
It was always Pete. Yeah, it was always Pete Rose to me because it was the second batter I've ever faced in the major leagues until he started moaning and groaning about it the past week. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to change my mind.
So he was the second batter you ever faced in Major League Baseball?
I faced Joe Morgan was the first batter, Pete Rose the second, and Mike Schmidt the third in 1983 Phillies.
Oh my gosh! How'd you negotiate that lineup right there?
Somehow there was a strikeout, and a ground out involved to get through that first inning.
3 up, 3 down, Ron? 3 up, 3 down?
Don't ask me to explain. I have no idea. Someone was taking care of me.
3 up, 3 down with Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt against the Wheeze Kids Phillies. Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, but so Pete, moaning about it. It's just, look, but why is it even a thing, right? I mean, it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. It's just contrived. I mean, Pete is the man. I just think it's an opportunity for all of us to really appreciate Ichiro and what he's done.
True.
Remember, if he had been given a chance, let's say if he had started his career here, you're not even assured that the powers that be in those days, when most of the guys were of hairy back, who were hitting balls out of the ballpark, who had to hit 40 home runs to even consider getting on the field, if anyone would have been enlightened enough to take a 160-pound right fielder who hit ground balls to shortstop and beat them out. It would have been interesting if someone would have allowed him to start at such a young age, which it would have taken. I certainly believe, because of the game he played, if he had played when he was 20 years old, 21 years old, he certainly, if not, would have already beat Pete or would at least be threatening it. But it's a moot point because he didn't. And Pete will always be the king, except he's less of a king the more he speaks about it.
It's a perfect way to put it. I agree with you. Ron Darling, SNY analyst, former New York Met champion pitcher, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do we see David Wright ever play again, Ron?
That's a real tough question, and at the same time, now he's getting to the point, Rich, where it's quality of life issue. We talk a lot about this in football occasionally and hockey, but we're talking about a young man that someday would love to walk, push his kids on a swing, and do all those things that everyone else gets to do, and those might be compromised by the things that he's going through right now. I don't even know how he must feel, because we're talking about most athletes are proud, but being around David, he's such a proud person. He makes everyone around him proud to be his friend or his teammate. The organization has had one of the greatest, not only players on the field but off the field for it. And I guess to answer your question, I certainly don't believe, I don't think I'd ever say that he will ever play the way he did before, and there's a really good chance that he might not ever play again.
Yeah, the captain of the Mets having a herniated disc in his neck removed, I think just up the street from us here in Marina Del Rey, here in California.
Yeah.
Ron Darling joining me here. Are we seeing a renaissance of pitchers right now, of pitching in general, with Arrieta, Bumgarner, Kershaw, Sale over in the American League? We're seeing Fulmer, who I guess the Mets just have all of these young kids and traded him for Cespedes, what he's doing in Detroit right now. Syndergaard right there in front of you, Ron. Are we seeing a renaissance of pitching in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons. I think the teaching of pitching is exponentially better than my generation of player. You kind of had your motion, a pitching coach worked around it, and you kind of figured it out. Today, they really have an idea on how to maximize how hard you throw the ball, how to minimize the moving parts. Anyone who's a golfer, who's one of your listeners, knows what I'm talking about. The less parts you have moving, the better chance you have of throwing it straight. And I also think the second reason for me is that the real big athlete who used to always want to be an outfielder or a first baseman and hit the ball out of the ballpark now knows that if they throw 95 miles an hour in high school or college, they're going to automatically get $5 million from a major league team. It doesn't matter what they do professionally. It doesn't matter if they ever make the major leagues. You know, if they make the major leagues, now they're looking at $200-300 million if they're a Kershaw, Arrieta, an elite kind of pitcher. But if you can just throw hard and you're in high school or college, you're going to get some major dollars from a professional team. And I think that's why you got guys saying, okay, well, what should I opt for? Hitting the baseball, which is one of the hardest things to do anyway, or throwing a baseball, which I naturally can do at 95 miles an hour without blinking. I think that's why a lot of the big athletes are going towards pitching.
So which is the best team that you've seen personally eyeballed so far through this season, Ron?
The Cubs. Yeah, the Cubs are just they got two things. One, they've got amazing talent, and that's with Schwarber going down in the first couple of weeks.
Yep, unbelievable.
They have they have a versatile team, and I think Tad, Joe Madden is the manager of the future and as of the present, and for whatever reason, I think there's many reasons, and there's too many to get into. He just getting the most out of today's athlete is the most difficult thing for any coach or manager. He seems to do it, and they've got that special something that it's really hard for all of us to say because it's a Cubs team and we know their history. But I think that they have it in spades. It reminds me of teams that I played on. They've come out of the blocks like the Mariners when they won 116, and I don't know how they're going to stop them. Especially with the kind of pitching they're getting, even from like the back of the rotation guys like Campbell and others.
Ron Darling joining me here, and we will get to the 86 Mets in a moment. If you were a manager and your stud ace pitcher, Bumgarner, Arrieta, says, I want to take part in the home run derby, would you let him do it?
I would not let him do it, and this is from someone that hit a couple of home runs in their career, loved to hit, had a little power, would have loved to have participated. I just think that when you invest in these guys, the chances of them getting hurt are 1%, but that 1% is too much for me to allow them to take a chance on pulling an intercostal. I think what they don't realize is that when they hit in a game or they hit in batting practice, they're doing their thing, they're working on their game. But you get in front of 55,000 screaming people and you want to hit the ball 550 feet instead of over the fence, you're going to be exerting a little more whether you like it or not. And that's just a natural thing for anyone to do, whether you're a professional or an amateur. And that's the thing that I think has got Bochy and others worried. And boy, wouldn't you feel bad if you're one of those elite pitchers and you can't help your team down the stretch because you wanted to play in a home run derby.
And when you were saying you hitting a couple of home runs in your career, you weren't just throwing around a phrase or approximating. That's exactly the number of home runs you hit in your career, Ron. Two, by the way, in 1989. 2 in 89, Ron.
Well, it's not only in 1989. It was in back-to-back games. So there's two ways to look at that. In back-to-back games, I was one of the best hitting pitchers ever. But, boy, that says that there was a lot of downtime between all those other years.
Yeah, there were lean years. There were some lean years, to use the phrase. So who are they off of? Who'd you go yard against, Ron?
Oh, geez. I went off of Norm, one of the Beastie Boys from Cincinnati, Norm Charlton.
Norm Charlton.
Hit a 3-run home run. Yeah, I hit a 3-run home run to beat him in Cincinnati.
Oh.
He came on when the game was tied, so that was a real feather in my cap because Norm was such a great pitcher. And
Sure.
I'm blacking out on the pitcher I hit the first one off of, and maybe you can get it for me because you're so good in this stuff. He was the Montreal Expos from Tampa, a good friend of Dwight Gooden, was traded. Boy, I can't remember right now. I don't know why.
Let's see. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if we can do it here. So I'm looking
right-hander
against Cincinnati.
Floyd Yeomans. Floyd Yeomans. So Floyd Yeomans and Norm Charlton.
Yeah. So you back to back against those guys. I like your own little personal home run derby right there, Ron. So
at this time, they're sitting on someone's couch paying them $150 an hour because of that experience.
I love it. So in the 86 Mets reunion that just took place, which one looks like they could give you a few at-bats or maybe a few innings right now? Who could do that out of everyone you saw?
The two guys, very easy. One I know can still pitch, Jesse Orosco, because he's left-handed, and I know he can go out and throw 3 curveballs and get someone out. But Rick Aguilera, who had all the saves for the Minnesota Twins, and it's too bad he didn't do it for the Mets, was in phenomenal shape and looked like he was ready to go.
Wow. How was that weekend for you? What was that like?
The weekend was amazing. You know, it was everybody was there. Lenny Dykstra was there, a guy we haven't seen in a long, long time. And I think for all of us, and I don't know how anyone else feels, but boy, it felt like a beautiful last hurrah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there might be another one, and guys are going to get together, but you know, guys are getting older, and this was one where everyone's kids were about the same age. Most of them had their moms and dads still, so they're able to remember those people that hung out around the team at the time. So it was nice. Almost everyone's kid was the same age that we were when we played.
Wow.
So it was like a bunch of all little me's from the day running around. So it was nice.
So there's this 30 for 30 documentary on Doc Gooden and Strawberry coming up. Was it a razor's edge being their teammate, wondering if they would be walking in the clubhouse or not, or what you'd be getting when they walked in the clubhouse, Ron?
Yeah, I think, I think the biggest thing, there wasn't really a razor's edge because we had enough talent and enough cockiness to say it doesn't matter, we'll get it done somehow, some way. But there certainly, when I'm asked all the time about, why the Mets did not win 3 or 4 championships, you know, let's say you take Anthony Rizzo and Arrieta off the Cubs, you take Bryce Harper and Steven Strasburg off the Nationals, you can go down the line with all the great teams, and just they're not able to participate at their best all the time. It certainly would compromise those teams, and I think that's what I think about when I think about Straw and Doc, is that, you know, addiction is a very difficult thing, and I don't mean to demean that at all, because it's anyone's personal hell. But as far as your teammates are concerned, there's a reason we didn't perform better. You know, sometimes our best players were not always on the field.
Ron, thanks for taking the time. We don't do this enough, so I'd love to have you back on. Certainly, if you're coming out here on the left coast, have you in studio, as always, Ron.
I'll see you then, Rich. Thank you very much for everything.
Always.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. That's Sportsnet New York's Ron Darling.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.